So I came very close to nearly destroying my copy of Alchemised. Fun fact, I'm actually left-handed, and so I don't know how to hold these in my right hand. Put them down, Willow. For clarity, I wasn't just going to destroy a book for the sake of it, and that's what I want to talk about here. I had a plan to make a video in which I thought I could put the worst book, the most offensive, cruel piece of trash I have ever read in my life, to better use. Turn this terrible, offensive work of art into an actually good work of art. And I was inspired to do that by cafes and bookshops that I've been to all around the world, places I'm sure you've been to yourself, where they collect old books and turn the pages into things like origami. Books are often destroyed in the name of art. Old books that nobody wants or that people have donated or whatever. People take damaged books, old books, whatever it might be, and turn it into a visual piece of artwork. Papier-mâché, for fuck's sake, or paper-mâché as Americans call it. You could do that with pages out of a book, turn them into papier-mâché. Why not? But I couldn't do it. And I want to talk about that. My original plan was to put my camera on a miniature tripod on my desk and rip pages out of Alchemised and use different coloured pens to write my own poetry on the pages. I am a published poet. I take great pride in my poetry. And my poetry is specifically very queer, very feminist, very angry, political poetry. A lot of it is about body horror and the transgender experience, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, well, my poetry is better art than Alchemised, and I'm not saying that to show off. It is better than Alchemised by virtue of not being Alchemised. All art is better than Alchemised, save the music of Falling in Reverse or something like that. But like, this book is bottom of the barrel when it comes to literature. It is not literature. And I am so angry at it, I thought, hey, wouldn't that be a destructive but also creative power move? To turn this thing into a phoenix. To take the bad art between these covers and put good art over the top. Paint pictures, write poetry, cover up this toxic writing with better art of my own. Isn't that beautiful? And as I'm saying it now, I'm like, man, I really should have just done it. But I couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to destroy a book. And I think that's fascinating. This is, as I keep saying, the single worst book I've ever read in my life. Worse than House of Leaves, but I already have a video saying that that's the worst book ever, so what are you gonna do, YouTube? But this is it, right? This is the single worst book that exists, and I wanted to destroy it in order to make something better. This is a gift to Senlin Yu. It means that their name gets to be on something with good art inside of it for a change. You're welcome, Senlin Yu. But I couldn't do it. In this political climate, I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to destroy a piece of art, however little respect I have for it. Because right now, we are living in a world where authoritarian governments are rising up left, right, and centre. Here in the UK, we have a left-wing government who are 2 or 3 steps away from full authoritarianism. And they're supposed to be, ostensibly, they're supposed to be a left-wing government, right? And like Trump's government are out and out things I probably shouldn't say in case whatever, YouTube, blah, blah, blah. Bad people. That's a hot take. His government are bad people. I know, I say the stuff that no one else is willing to say on YouTube. I'm so courageous. Authoritarianism is rising up everywhere, except Ireland. Ireland is doing very well right now. Well done, Ireland. And in the UK right now, we have Zach Polanski and Vote Green, Get Behind the Greens, and the Scottish Greens. I met Ross Greer, co-leader of the Scottish Greens, at a concert recently. Ross Greer is the loveliest guy. I don't care if you're in Scotland or in England and Wales. Vote Green. The Greens are different. As far as I remember, the Scottish Greens broke ties with the English Greens over transphobia. And at the time I was like, wow, well done Scottish Greens. But now that's kind of behind them and the Scottish Greens are looking to reunite. And I think that's sensible. Even though I support Scottish independence, I live in Scotland and I hope for independence, but the English Greens are also for Scottish and Welsh independence, so it's a no-brainer. Vote Green. Zach Polanski, Ross Greer, these people are the future. Anyway, politics. Vote Green. Where am I? What am I doing? I didn't destroy Alchemized. Because we are living in a terrifying, awful time right now. I feel like hope is on the horizon, maybe here in Europe, certain parts of Europe, not in the States, sorry. And I can't destroy a book. The symbolism, even if there's nothing inherently wrong depending on your perspective, with me taking something that I bought with my money, and it's a copy, it's not the original manuscript, it's not the only one that exists. It is one of way too many copies of this god-awful book that exists out there. It is one copy of one book that is a bad book, and I bought it and I can do whatever I want with my property. Even if all of that is true, even if it's not a big deal, even if there are people watching this going, should have done it, like you said, Willow. There are people who do this to make origami and papier-mâché. There are people who do this to make displays hanging from the ceilings and the walls of bookshops and cafes around the world. You said that yourself, so just do it. I can't. It's not a big deal, maybe, to some people. I didn't think it was a big deal for me. I've got hair in my eye. I really thought I was going to do this. I had a whole plan, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to destroy a piece of art. And to be clear, there is no way in hell, even if I despise a book, even if I think that that book is dangerous and useless, anti-art, anti-literature, and I do think that is true for Alchemized, even if that's the case, I would never ever actually destroy a book just to be destructive. I would never set fire to a book, but I thought I could turn it into something more beautiful. Repurpose it, upcycle it. I thought it would be a creative thing to do, while also being a statement. But I couldn't do it. Because the destruction of art right now, at a time where people are being arrested for nothing at all, at a time where books are being banned, libraries are being defunded and disappearing altogether, short form content and attention spans diminishing, all put literature at threat. At threat? Is that a phrase? Under threat. Under threat. At risk. Where was I? I think I need to start taking ADHD meds. At a time when literature, art in general, publishing, libraries, public forms of artistic expression, all of these things are less free and more surveilled than they ever have been. I can't destroy a book for any reason. It would feel disgusting and disgraceful and hypocritical of me. A writer, a booktuber, an editor, a bookworm in general, a person who just respects art and the freedom to create it, however bad it may be. There was no way that I could bring myself to destroy a book. And so where does that leave us? I had a thought to destroy a book in order to create something better, or at least different. A new form of art, like I said, a phoenix, born out of bad art that might be better art, or at least different art, repurposed art. And then I had a thought that there is no way that I could bring myself to do that. And I don't know if it's just because of our current political climate, or if in general, regardless of the political zeitgeist we're in, if I could ever bring myself to actually destroy a book for any reason, I don't know if I can do it. When the allegations against Neil Gaiman came out, I got rid of my Neil Gaiman books, but I gave them to charity. Here in the UK, we have charity shops on every street in every city. I've been to a lot of thrift stores in the States, and the reason I'm saying this is because I know I have like a majority American audience, so I don't know. I'm asking here if thrift stores and charity shops are the same, if thrift stores are run by charities. I don't know. But in the UK, we have a lot of charities. Those charities have shops where you donate clothes, books, DVDs, shoes, ornaments, household things, whatever. You donate them, they sell them, and the profits that they make go to the charity. If that was patronizing and I'm explaining a very obvious phenomenon to you, I'm sorry. But I took my Neil Gaiman books to a charity shop in the hope that when they are resold, that money goes to charity. But then I talked to people who said that they couldn't bring themselves to do that because that meant that their Neil Gaiman books or their Harry Potter books, whatever, are still in circulation. They don't want those books out there. They want less of those pieces of art, fewer copies out there in the world. I talked to one person who said they threw their Neil Gaiman books in the recycling. Now that is repurposing paper, and it's also making sure that Neil Gaiman's books don't end up in the hands of someone else. Okay, that is one approach. I personally couldn't bring myself to do it, even if Neil Gaiman has been accused of awful, horrendous things, I still couldn't bring myself to destroy his books via recycling. I still had to give them to charity because that way a charity benefits, I haven't destroyed any art, and my conscience is clear. And also I don't own them, so they're not in my home where I look at them and go, ugh. I don't know what's right. And I'm hoping that this video will open up a healthy discussion about this topic. I'm sure I'll have people who say, you should have destroyed Alchemised and put some poetry on it. Because I wasn't going to destroy it. I was going to repurpose it, as I said, take pages out of it and make them into pictures and poetry and that kind of thing. And there will be people in the comments who say, yeah, you should have done that. That sounds great. Where's the harm in that? It's not a big deal. Either they'll say it in a really cynical way, like, grow up, it's not a big deal. It's just paper. Or there are going to be people saying, yeah, it sounds beautiful. Turn it into better art. That's lovely. And then there are going to be people who say, yeah, I understand why you couldn't do it. And like with the Neil Gaiman books, there are going to be people who say, yeah, I recycled mine as well. And other people who did what I did, who say, yeah, I couldn't bring myself to throw them in a bin, even a recycling bin. And so I also gave them to charity or gave them to a friend for free or whatever. Everyone has their own moral compass and their own ideas of right and wrong. Obviously, that's true. We all have ethics, and as a YouTuber, I encounter a lot of different perspectives when it comes to ethics. And something that I find frustrating when it comes to the left versus right debate is that, from my perspective as a very far left person, there is a broader spectrum of left-wing politics, from liberal centrism to communism and so many things in between, and so many topics where we agree, disagree on human rights, economics, political policies, governance, public ownership, etc., etc. There are so many ways you can agree and disagree, whereas so many people on the right are fueled by hate, anger, and fear, and they are very united by those emotions. Hate trans people, hate immigrants, job done, right? Nice and easy. But on the left, there is so much infighting because we agree, disagree on 100 different things. It is a very three-dimensional sphere, this spectrum. It's not a line. It's a three-dimensional thing where we agree, disagree at different points, and you look around like a star chart of all of these different things where you agree and disagree and then fight and infight, and it goes on and on and on. And I feel like this is quite a good example where, in this situation right now, I'm going to have so many people who are angry and disgusted at the idea of destroying a book, even if it means creating fresh art out of it. And then there are going to be people who have arguments for why I should have done it, why I shouldn't have done it, etc. I said before that I got rid of my Neil Gaiman books by giving them to charity. My partner still has their Harry Potter books, but those books are in a cupboard under the stairs. Literally. Very on the nose, I know. And as a trans person who only wishes the worst for J.K. Rowling, I personally don't have an issue with the fact that my partner still owns copies of these books. That's fine. But there might be trans people who say to me, hey, are you not uncomfortable with that? No. And we can go on and on and on and on with this. Talking, discussing, arguing, disagreeing. It's endless. And in the end, I just felt too grossed out by my initial motivation to do any damage to a piece of art, even if I hate it. Mostly because of the state of the world right now, where bookshops and libraries are in danger, where books are being banned, where freedom of art, freedom of expression, freedom of bodily autonomy, all of these things are under threat. And it just felt to me like I should keep the books that I own safe, even if I don't like them. I have a duty to keep art safe, even if it's bad art. And obviously, I'm not keeping my copy of Alchemised. Obviously, I'm going to give it to a charity shop. Of course I am. That's what I feel is right, at least right now. I am changeable. I can be convinced otherwise. Maybe I'll make the video. Maybe if enough people convince me, and they'll have to do a good job of it, that actually it would be a good idea to make fresh art out of this terrible book, like a phoenix rising. Maybe I would do it, but this video is not a challenge to you to do that to me. I did not make this video to try and get you to convince me that I should do it. This is not a dare. It's a discussion of what is right, what is wrong, especially within our current political climate, as it pertains to the importance and value of art. I am reminded of Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. I thought about that the moment I gave up on my motivation to turn Alchemized into some other kind of art. But of course, what I would be doing is not what happens in Fahrenheit. I am not motivated in the same ways, and it would not be wanton destruction. But then, is it right for me to destroy a book, no matter my motivations? It's so difficult to try to figure out where I land on all of this. I think I'm just gonna have to stop talking. I just thought it was very interesting to make a video in which I wrangle with my decision to not do something I nearly did because it felt ultimately wrong. And I want to know if you agree or disagree, and what you do with terrible books. Especially when authors are problematic, like Neil Gaiman, J.K. Rowling, etc. But that is a more clear-cut thing. What do you do in this situation when you think that a piece of art is genuinely poisonous and shouldn't exist, but has the right to exist, and freedom of art is everything to me? I'm waffling again, I'm gonna stop. Give me your opinion in the comments. If you find these kinds of discussions healthy, helpful, interesting, insightful, whatever, let me know. Support me on Patreon if you want to see more of this stuff, because without Patreon support, this channel would go away. So I'm not trying to guilt trip. I've been talking too long. Support me on Patreon if you like what I do. Thank you, I'd really appreciate it. And of course, only if you're able to, because things are tough right now. Thank you in advance. Subscribe for books.